What the goal is here is to drive traffic to your storefront from on Amazon to prove that your storefront can convert.
Hey everyone, this is Nazar Akil from Max Pro.
Hi, I'm Linda.
And I'm Paul.
And we're Love and Pebbles.
Hi, this is Lopa Vandermersch from Rasa.
Oh, you're listening to,
And you're listening.
And you are listening to the E-Comm Show.
Welcome to the Ecom Show, presented by BlueTuskr, the #1 place to hear the inside scoop from other e-commerce experts, where they share their secrets on how they scaled their business and are now living the dream. Now, here is your host, Andrew Math.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ecom Show. I'm your host, Andrew Math, and today I am joined by no one. Isn't that great? See, basically, sometimes stuff doesn't go your way, and maybe someone stands you up when you're trying to do them a favor. So we're going to flip this around and do it a little bit different. We're going to make this a relatively condescending podcast today. I'm kidding. We're not. Here's what I decided we're going to do. Right now at the recording of this, we're in the middle of Q4. There is a lot of stuff going on with Amazon, with off Amazon stuff. There's theories that we may be going into a recession next year. Some people saw some great increases during the typical Black Friday, Cyber Monday push. Some people didn't. So it's a little all over the place. And one of the things I wanted to discuss is something that is a topic that I like to discuss all of the time. And it's mainly around specifically diversification. And one of the things that happened over Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which all my Amazon sellers out there, you are very aware of what happened. Amazon decided conveniently that during the biggest shopping time of the year, they were effectively going to not really give you the exact reporting that was going on out of your ad campaigns. So it kind of looked like you were doing a great job. And in fact, what was actually happening is they were underreporting your spend. So what actually started happening was a lot of sellers went, oh man, I'm killing it. I'm going to increase my spend. And then what happened was, as the reporting has started to come to fruition, they're starting to see like, oh, I actually lost my ass. And so a lot of agencies like myself and some other agency friends I have in the space, which I just stuttered all over, they are not having a great time because they're getting yelled at like it's their fault. Unfortunately, we have no control over that. But it's an exact prime example of why I always preach diversifying away from Amazon. Now, I want to be very clear on one thing. I do not mean in any way, shape, or form leave Amazon and start a business elsewhere. Dear God, no. In fact, most of the time for a lot of e-commerce sellers, especially I know a lot of the sellers that listen to this podcast, you're heavily focused on Amazon. And you will probably be that way for the foreseeable future unless there's like some serious like warehouse damage that goes on and someone like dies in the warehouse, in which case people might boycott Amazon and now you're screwed. So you have to be able to make sure that your business is still going to be afloat and not be so reliant on someone else's business. I understand it's Amazon and it's massive, and a lot of us have a theory that it's too big to fail, and that very well could be the case, but it's just not smart to basically go from having many sellers I'm aware of who have like 10, 20, $30 million a year Amazon businesses, and then all of a sudden they get suspended and now they've got zero, when in fact they could have also looked at Walmart or eBay or Wayfair or Chewy, or obviously the most important, their own site, and actually not be so screwed should that happen, so that at least they have some kind of income coming in. So I actually started to develop this kind of omni-channel approach, which is very different. Like I know like everyone knows the omni-channel approach, which is standard, which is basically make sure you're on every marketplace, everywhere that you possibly can be. Make sure that your images and your copy and all that stuff look and sound the same. That's kind of your standard omni-channel marketing, with the one exclusion of doing some overarching branding and just letting people shop wherever they're most comfortable, right? I have a slightly different approach because I have worked with Amazon sellers for going on, let's see, it's 2022, probably coming up on about 8 years now, if not maybe even more. Technically, my first job was 15 years ago in an e-commerce space, which is actually where I originally started with Amazon, but I didn't touch it for a while. But anyway, I digress. Basically, what I've seen over the years is Amazon sellers are always very, very afraid to take that jump from Amazon to pretty much to their own website. They're usually okay with like, fine, I'll test Walmart, or okay, let's put it on Wayfair or something. But what they always seem to fail to remember is that all of them, while are completely different marketplaces, are completely basically the same thing to a lot of consumers. And so this actually happened 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I think 7 years ago. Before I was in, I had a period where I was in between agencies. I went in house for a while, and I was in house at a seller at an e-commerce company that was probably, if I had to guess, I think we were like 75, maybe 80% Amazon. And then the rest was like some other one-off stuff, obviously their own site. And the problem was that basically the owner that I worked for at the time changed his credit card for the advertising just because he had capped out. It was December, and I was working there for I think 3 months. That's it. That's all I did. Just change his credit card. Be like, we're capping out on ads. Billing for the credit card hasn't gone through yet. It hasn't processed. So changed his credit card. Amazon, for some reason, thought the card was fraudulent and suspended the account for a week. I think maybe a week and a half. I think this was the first or second week of December. So it was like prime Q4 time. And I'm at this job for now 2 or 3 months, and I'm going, great. I've been here for 2 or 3 months. I'm now going to lose my job because this business is going to close because the amount we were making off the website and the other marketplaces was not enough to sustain us. So immediately, luckily, where I worked, the guy was wildly impressive. He got through the suspension pretty quick. He's still a big influencer in the space, and respect the hell out of him. But it was one of those things where I go, this is scary to be so reliant on something that can be so finicky. Amazon's done a great job over the years at getting better. In fact, they just released something, I want to say it was like a week or two ago, where they now, for certain sellers, are telling them that they've been approved to basically not be suspended for almost any reason for, I think it's 72 hours, unless unless someone speaks to them from Amazon, like they will walk them through, here's the problem, you have 72 hours to resolve it, kind of thing. So they're giving them a heads up before they're suspended, as opposed to your typical, waking up one day and finding out you're suspended. So what I wanted to talk about in this podcast today, since I have the time and I'm just going to own the stage for a little bit here, since no one wanted to join me, we're going to talk about diversification. And one of the things that I mentioned is that Amazon sellers are always really afraid to take that jump, right? Like they don't want to go from Amazon to their website, because websites can be very expensive if you do them correctly. And then marketing off Amazon is a completely different beast. It's like almost a different industry in comparison to the glory of Amazon ads, which is basically just start running ads. And as long as you're hitting the right keywords and your listing converts, you'll be fine. It is a lot more difficult off Amazon. However, there's some statistics that a lot of people should keep in mind, right? So if you're an 8-figure Amazon seller, and you can do the math on your own if you're in 7 figures or you're 9 or whatever you want to do, but if you're an 8-figure Amazon seller and you're an FBA seller, you're going to exit probably around a 2.5 to 3.5 EBITDA based on some of these aggregators and stuff that, some things that people publicize. Yes, that can go significantly higher. It can go significantly lower. It really kind of depends on your business. There's a lot of different variables there, but 2.5 to 3.5 x EBITDA, right? If you're an 8-figure seller, if you're an 8-figure seller off Amazon and you have a community you build, you have a decent sized email list, like you have an audience that someone else can leverage, you immediately jump to an average of a 3.5 to 6x EBITDA. So let's say on the high side for your Amazon business as an FBA seller in the 8-figure range annually, you could get up to 3.5x EBITDA. Again, I'm sure someone else has gotten more. Please don't yell at me if I'm wrong. But if you also have a presence off Amazon, you're jumping to a 6x for the same amount of revenue. So let's say you're at the bottom of the barrel, you're at a $10 million a year company, you're going to get valuated as, like a $30.5 million company. Whereas if you're a company that has a presence offline, you could get valuated at up to a $60 million company, which is nuts because it depends on the size of your audience. So if you think about when someone acquires you, they basically are buying your business just kind of flat out. And on Amazon, that's like, okay, here's my inventory, here's my product, here's my access to my account, have at it, good luck. And then that's it. yes, I'm sure you have processes in place. Yes, I'm sure there's maybe a good sized product line or however that's set up, but that's kind of the end of it and that's all they get. Whereas if you actually start to develop a brand off Amazon, you've now just not only got your product and your sales and the standard stuff, but you've developed an asset. You've developed an audience. You could be sold to a company that might not really have that much of an interest in selling your product, but they really want to access your community because it'll help them and their current business grow, substantially. So there's a big reason outside of just diversifying because you might get suspended randomly. It's actually because you can make significantly more money when you go to exit. Almost every e-commerce seller I speak to exits at one point. Many of us choose not to, and it's more of just like, I'm going to hand this down to my kids, in which case this might not be for you, but in other cases it very well could be. Either way, even if you're going to hand it down to someone and you're going to make it like kind of a family thing, I still suggest like doing everything you can to make sure it's a big enough company for that to sustain grandkids and great grandkids, et cetera. But so let's get into kind of what my approach is from going from solely an Amazon seller to going to starting a more of an omni-channel presence. And I mentioned that big jump, right? Like that big jump of building a website and starting all that marketing is expensive, and it can be a lot of testing. And a lot of times, our agency is solely focused on, I don't want to say solely focused, but we're very focused on developing omni-channel approaches and helping Amazon sellers diversify into other areas. And there's so many times where basically we try not to convince someone to do it. Obviously, we're a little biased, so I always make that clear. But that jump can be scary and it can be expensive, not even from a management fee perspective, literally just from like hey, you're going to have to advertise like you've never advertised before. I don't care that you're doing 7 or 8 figures on Amazon. If you all of a sudden build a website and then launch like $1,000 a month in advertising and you're sitting there going, why aren't we making any money? You're just blind to the fact that it's a completely different beast. But what you're actually trying to do is the head of your beast is Amazon. You're trying to develop this website into actually being the head of your beast. And I'm going to explain how I kind of get into this. So let's kind of get into actually that now. So the big problem, super expensive. So how do you ease into this, right? That's always the big question, is how do you kind of like slowly test things without taking this giant jump so that you can justify it? So chances are, if you're a 7 or 8 figure seller, you've already got a very beautiful Amazon storefront, right? So this is the very first thing you want to do if you don't have one. Get your brand registered, go get a storefront. And I know for a lot of listeners, this is very elementary. This is standard stuff, but bear with me. I'm going to explain in a minute. You want to have a very nice Amazon storefront, and you kind of want to design it where it looks a little bit like how you would want your website to look. And the main reason there is that you're going to want to be basically prove out the structure of how you're showcasing your products. Within your storefront, you're going to want to make sure that you have the ability for them to be able to purchase directly from the storefront. It's usually pretty rare for people to do that because there's not enough information on the storefront for like if you just have the product grid, like they're going to want to see the extra images. They're going to want to see your bullet points, your 8+ and all that fun stuff. But it is a nice way to see like, okay, they do have the ability to just convert straight from the storefront, right? So basically you've built a website on Amazon, kind of in a layman term, but that's really what you did, right? The other thing you're going to want to do, next step, also very elementary, again, stay with me. You're going to want to build out sponsored brand ads, sending people directly to your storefront. What the goal is here is to drive traffic to your storefront from on Amazon to prove that your storefront can convert. Now, I know in sponsored brand ads, you have, in the standard ones, you have your kind of like custom image, which is typically your logo, a little bit of copy, and then you usually have like 3 products. So if they click on the product, it's going to take them straight to the product. You don't really know if they went to the storefront or not, and it's just going to have to be a judgment call for the most part, unless you do something around more like the sponsored brand, like videos, etc. But either way, the goal being drive traffic to the storefront from on Amazon to see if you can get the storefront to convert. Once you've got that storefront to convert, you've now kind of been able to prove like, okay, something that's going to look like my website can convert. It has the ability from an audience that I'm already leveraging, right? In fact, there's a good chance that if you're a 7 or 8 figure seller, you're probably already doing this. Your next step is there's a few different ways you can approach this. You're going to want to test driving off Amazon traffic to Amazon. Don't build a landing page yet. Don't build a website. We're skipping over all that. We're going to go straight to let's just play around with some off Amazon advertising. So this depends on your brand. whether you want to go with like Google ads or Facebook ads or TikTok or something like that. If you have a product that everyone is very aware exists, maybe not your specific brand, but like your product specifically, they know it exists and it's not an incredibly crowded market. Trying to think of wireless keyboards. Let's go with that. I just Kaiser Soze this thing. So let's go wireless keyboards. It's not an incredibly crowded market, but it's enough that you could probably run some ads on it. But let's also say that maybe you have something that no one really knows exists and it requires a little bit more consumer education. That's going to be more your social media side because you're going to want to showcase the product. It might be a visual product. It might be something that, you just need to explain how it works. Like that's where you want to go more social because you can leverage your creative. Either way, you're either going to want to go into the back end of your storefront and you're going to want to do, there's a custom source code in the back end, which basically is like Amazon's UTM is kind of the nice way to look at that. There's also your Amazon Associates program / like affiliate program, however you want to look at that, where you can basically use that link to drive traffic straight to your listings. The problem with that is you're sending the traffic to your listings, not your storefront, and that kind of it doesn't really help the point, but it could still work. But basically, what we're trying to do is you're going to start running traffic from off Amazon to Amazon to see, can you get the off Amazon traffic to convert on Amazon? If you do it within like Facebook ads, you can actually narrow your audience to people that also have an interest in Amazon. So you're maybe just solely focused on people that actually shop on Amazon, but pretty much everyone and their mother does. So you're probably fine to just spray and pray. But if you're sending the traffic to the storefront from off Amazon, you're basically going to try and find out now, is that traffic going to convert? You can check your source code. If you do the Amazon affiliates or associates program, whichever, you can check it there. But really what we're trying to do is there an audience off Amazon that I can still get to convert? It just so happens that they're converting on Amazon for now, but now I just want to see, okay, there's Google ads worked or Facebook ads worked to a certain extent. It may not be perfect because Google ads specifically, even though your URL is going to say Amazon, people don't always know they're going to Amazon. So you might see like maybe not the best conversion rate. You might not get the immediate ROI that you want, but you just kind of want to prove that there's enough, like there's a glimmer of hope there. On social, you can usually say within the copy or within the video, like, hey, there, this is an Amazon promo or something like that. And then it's a little bit more clear. But either way, the goal being, how do I get off Amazon traffic to convert? This is kind of where the next step comes in. That's usually a little bit interesting. First thing I think about is creating a landing page for your product or your entire product line. This is where it gets a little interesting because a traditional landing page, you typically only want to have like one offer on it or something very clear where it's like a very quick decision. Either you want it or you don't, if not leave sort of thing. It could be a category or it could just be a specific product. It kind of depends on your brand. But my suggestion is you build out a landing page and you have a button on there that says available on Amazon, nothing else. And you let them click that button and they go over to Amazon to purchase. In that button is where you want to put your source code or your affiliate link, whichever one you choose, to be able to track like, okay, how many people actually converted for the traffic I sent, excuse me, to this landing page. So with the landing page, when you're sending traffic to the landing page and you have that button, the first thing I suggest doing is on that button, if you're doing Google ads or you're doing Facebook ads or whatever, use your Google Tag Manager or however you want to do this and put a custom event on that button so that you can not only track but count how many people clicked that button. If you're using your source code or you're using your associates program or however you map that out, you can then see like, okay, X amount of people clicked this button, X amount actually converted, and you'll understand what your conversion rate is. So that's going to be really nice to know. It's going to be great for you to kind of get an understanding of where things are at. But that data is actually going to come in play a little bit later on, and I'll explain. So we built the landing page, and it's got your available on Amazon button, right? The next thing you want to do after you've kind of proven out, like, okay, I can drive traffic to this landing page and get people to convert on Amazon. Now what you want to do is on that landing page, add a buy now button. Give them the opportunity to purchase on the website. My suggestion, just go ahead and get Shopify. The bottom tier is like, I think it's like $50 a month or something like that. It's totally worth it. That way you can easily introduce a checkout option. Give people the option to check out on the landing page. this is probably a good time to implement a few other bells and whistles. Like if your brand, allows for discounts and things like that, maybe you do like, hey, first time customers get X% off or something like that. But either way, you're going to leave the available on Amazon button. Now what you're going to do is track of all the traffic that I sent to that landing page, how many people clicked that Amazon button, how many people actually purchased. Now you can go through this funnel of, okay, how many people clicked the Amazon button, and then how many people actually converted on Amazon, and or how many people added to cart or went straight to checkout but didn't convert. So now you're kind of seeing like where that fall off is for Amazon versus your web versus this landing page. My suggestion is either A, you leave it that way for a while and you start racking in cash. That's kind of when I start suggesting like, hey, we should probably look at social or something along those lines, start building that community and doing what you can to get as much revenue as you can that's justifiable through that landing page specifically. That's essentially like putting a budget aside to invest in what you should do next, which is your website, which I'll get to in a second. But basically, now you're going to look at social, depending on your product line, you're going to look at social, or you're going to look at Google. I want to hone that in. And just in my opinion, if you're kind of like bootstrapping this approach, just let the cash rake in, count out like, okay, we've made X amount from this landing page. That's basically what your website's going to cost. Now take that budget that you made from off Amazon and basically create your website from there. There's some nuances with the website that I'm going to touch on, but I do want to mention something real quick. I actually did a talk about this at a conference over the summer, and someone came up to me after the show and they're like, hey, really cool idea. It'll never work. And I go, okay, super nice to meet you. And basically this person's argument was driving traffic to an Amazon listing from off Amazon is going to increase the traffic, which if they don't convert is going to end up reducing your conversion rate, which will actually hurt your BSR and you'll start to fall. First of all, I fucking hate BSR. Stop giving me the BSR argument. The BSR thing is really nice. To me, it's a bit of a vanity metric depending on your product line. If the BSR you're tracking is a certain category and that category is extremely specific, like, hey, the wireless keyboard thing, okay, I get it. That's a good point. You need to have a higher BSR ranking. But if you're like selling shirts and you're like, oh, my BSR fell for t-shirts, be like, yeah, but t-shirts are basically up to the consumer to decide whether they like it or not. It may not have to do with fabric. It may not have to do with reviews. It may not have to do with size. It may not have to do with any of the functionality. They might be like, I don't like the color. You can't do anything about that. That's how that works. And that's the pros and cons of that industry. So BSR is not always something to go by. Outside of that, if you're driving off Amazon traffic to your listing and they're not converting and it's hurting your conversion rate, you have a problem with either A, the off Amazon audience that you're targeting, or B, your listing isn't converting as well as it probably should. So maybe you want to test driving it to one listing and see like, okay, here's my current conversion rate. I'm going to run off Amazon ads to this thing for a month. And then I'm going to look at, okay, where's my conversion rate now, provided that you changed nothing else, right? The listing stayed the same. Your on Amazon ads stayed the same. So if you're driving traffic from off Amazon, it absolutely 100% should not hurt you in any way, shape, or form. There are theories that Amazon is trying to, I saw this on LinkedIn like a couple of days ago. Someone said that Amazon is hurting people for driving traffic from off Amazon. That is a bold-faced lie. I don't even know where that person got that information from. Amazon actually released, so I've been talking about this available on Amazon button. Amazon actually released a button that is, I can't remember what the actual button was called. I'll have to put it in the show notes. But it's basically a button that integrates with Shopify that will allow people to go to your listing and check out there without like, it's kind of like you can check out with it. It's not Amazon Pay. It's basically like it kind of takes them to a pseudo listing and allows them to check out. So there's no competition. You don't have to deal with any of that. And so that kind of is proving like Amazon's trying to steal off Amazon traffic. They're not going to harm you for taking off Amazon traffic and sending it to them. No one's getting mad at someone sending traffic to their website, especially if the goal is for that person to convert. So lies. Anyway, I digress. So let's backtrack. You've built out this landing page. You've proven that the landing page is going to convert. You've built a nice little nest egg of landing page revenue, we'll call it. Now you build the website. this is when you go, okay, here comes the jump. Let's start doing this. But think about where we're at this point. You've proven that off Amazon traffic will work. There's a good chance that depending on your product line, you've already started to build a bit of a social following. You're driving all the traffic to this landing page. You've now got this data of everyone who has clicked that Amazon button, and you've probably started to develop a bit of an email list too, since you've now gotten some people to purchase through this landing page. So once you create this website, you now have all of this data to work with. So the first thing that I would suggest doing once you build this website, one, I'm a fan of leaving the available on Amazon button. I say leave it for as long as you feel fit until the site's kind of in a good spot, and then start A/B testing getting rid of it. However, I met someone with the Amazon Associates program at a conference in September, I think it was, and he had the statistic, and I should have wrote it down, but he said he's like, ignore the concept of Amazon. Let's say you add an available on Walmart button or eBay or wherever else you're selling. So let's say you add any of them. There are statistics that the conversion rate on your product page will actually improve just by having those there. The reason being is that the average consumer has no idea how this industry works. They just want to buy the product. So they're seeing this and they're going, oh, these people are everywhere. They must be a great company that Walmart and Amazon and eBay would allow them to be on their platform. The average consumer has no idea that there are other people selling on Amazon. They actually think, a lot of people think that it's just Amazon selling a ton of product that they have. People have started to learn a little bit differently now that time goes on, but either way, having those buttons on there can actually increase the conversion rate of the product page on your own website. So I'm always a fan of saying like, hey, just give the customer what they want. Let them shop where they're most comfortable. Revenue's revenue. It is what it is. Yes, you're going to lose some of your margin on Amazon, but you could obviously A/B test getting rid of those buttons. But let's say we leave the buttons. Let's say you have one now that's on your product page. You buy now, but then you have Amazon available on Amazon, available on Walmart, available on Wayfair, or wherever, and you start drive all this traffic. Well, on your landing page, if you remember, I mentioned putting the conversion code on the Amazon button. And then obviously you've developed your own data from people checking out on the website. Once you launch this new site, you now have a social media following that's probably tolerable. You have some data from people that have visited your landing page. So you have website visitors. You have data behind people that clicked on that available on Amazon button. And you've developed probably some decent sized email list. You have this entire audience now that you can then launch this new website and do a giant promotion if you want to go that direction, or you could just do a big announcement that, launched a new website, and you can now email your email list. You can let your social media followers know. You can run ads to everyone that has visited your website, clicked on that Amazon button, or is even in your email list, or has engaged with you on social. Like, you now have a warm audience to announce your new website and make it a big ordeal. But basically, then at that point, you keep all your bells and whistles on there of like, hey, upsell opportunities, buy this, get free shipping, pop-ups for the first time purchasers, all that fun stuff to try to keep them on the site, because obviously your margin's better there. But I often find that like sellers will give all these discounts to try to keep the data on their website and get the person to convert, when in reality, you could still get the data and let them go to Amazon. And to be honest, what you lose in margin on Amazon is not too different, give or take, depending on the product, on what the margin is that you would lose off Amazon. So I digress. But just as a quick recap here, we proved that your Amazon storefront worked. We proved that off Amazon traffic would convert on your storefront. We then proved that off Amazon traffic would convert on a landing page that's going to Amazon. We then proved that off Amazon traffic would convert on this landing page, on the landing page and not on Amazon. We gathered all this cash up from proving that off Amazon traffic worked, and then we built this website. And now, in what should probably take you about, I'm going to say, overpromise, underdeliver, 9 to 12 months to really do that nice and slow and prove out the budget and get that done. What that does is that now puts you on track to basically double what your potential exit is for your e-commerce business. That was once just an Amazon business. Now it's a full-fledged e-commerce business with an audience and you're no longer reliant or scared that Amazon might shut down at any minute. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of sellers we work with where even after going through this full approach, and most of their sales come from Amazon. That's 100%. That's life. That is what it is. There are ways to get traffic from on Amazon to your website. I'm not going to get into that because too many people get frustrated with me when I talk about that. But that basically will allow, that whole process right there will allow you to A/B test the entire way to eventually, within about a year, doubling what you will probably be able to exit for, give or take, for your business. That's the approach. If you got holes in it and you don't like it, have at it. Let's debate. It's my favorite thing to do. You can comment on wherever you're watching this episode or wherever you're listening. Although I guess podcast platforms don't really have commenting, but go over to our YouTube channel. Just shoot me an email, Andrew at BlueTuskr, BlueTuskr. More than happy to debate with you on how it would work, how it wouldn't, or answer any questions you might have. This was a fun episode. I should do these every now and then. But per usual, rate, review, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We're on pretty much every podcast platform you can think of. We're on YouTube, as I mentioned, if you're not watching my beautiful face right now. Or you can head over to the ecommshow.com and you can see all of our past episodes with all of our awesome guests. Not necessarily this person who stood me up. I'm not mad at them. You're mad at them. I appreciate y'all joining me. I will see you all next time. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ecomm Show. Head over to ecommshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The Ecomm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of the Ecomm Show.